unqualified to take on this challenge.
Unqualified to do their job.
Pure unqualified, silly unqualified. Morbidly unqualified. But it hasn't always been an unqualified success.
Rising number of unqualified teachers.
Physical and psychologically unqualified.
Qualified teachers, unqualified answers, unqualified film, unqualified music, qualified teachers, unqualified strangers, unqualified opinions.
After you, tiny comrade.
Oh, I get started, do I?
You do, you're the oldest, I said.
Okay, so welcome to the Unqualified Opinions podcast with me, Duncan.
And me, Graham.
So we decided that we have lots of strong opinions about stuff that we like, but we're completely unqualified to talk about them.
We are not qualified to talk about any of them.
But we thought, let's talk about them anyway.
Yeah,
Because
why
what's
not?
the worst that could happen?
If you enjoy it, you enjoy it.
Can't sue someone with no money.
If he is broke, don't sue him.
So here we are.
But a basic format for the show is we're going to review a classic, some might say seminal album. And then we're going to review a new chart topper, like a new album that's coming out this year or has been out in the last year or so. And just give our general thoughts and opinions on it. We'll try and give you some facts of things you haven't heard about the recording process or something interesting that happened while it was going on. I mean, if you think about older albums, most of them are steeped in mystery about the actual things that happened when it was going
Exactly.
on. And then eventually we want to move into promoting some more local artists and stuff. So if anybody's listening and they've got some music they want to promote, feel free to send it to us. We'll put an email address and stuff up underneath the episode.
Indeed, so yeah.
We've got to get
Details
an
will be in
email
there.
address first.
I mean, yeah. Well, we'll get to that.
Baby steps. Baby steps.
Exactly. The fact that we're actually recording anything is, by my opinion, minor miracle.
When we tried to record music, it took us a lot longer than this.
It's true. This has been like an express train compared.
Yeah, I know. No emotion in putting my opinion out there.
I mean, it might get emotional when we start arguing with each other, but that's fine.
Yeah, arguments are fine. I mean, you can have your opinion, but if it's not in line with mine, you're probably wrong.
I was about to say the same thing.
Alright, okay, so for today's episode, I don't know, we've got two albums that we've both been listening to quite a bit, and one of them is Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, which is fantastic. Seminal album in a lot of people's opinions. Is it in ours?
Yeah. The second album is the new album. Labrynth brought a new album called Ends and Begins. And we wanted to check that out as well and see what he's been up to in the lab, as the cool kids call it.
Shall we talk about Labrynth first?
Shall we do it?
Shall we get that out of the way?
Okay. So.
How do you feel about the new Labrynth album, Ends and Begins?
Right. This is where we start the unqualified opinion.
Yeah, no. Let's have a preface. Me and Duncan talk openly and in long periods about music a lot, and we've known each other a good 10, 12 years in doing this, and since we decided to do this, we haven't spoke about music. It's been a nightmare. We were constantly having to stop ourselves, start a conversation that we're going to enjoy. So, there's been loads of pent-up thoughts and aggressions for this. So, sorry, carry on with your unqualified opinion about Labrynth's Ends and Begins.
I have to say, I was disappointed. I don't know what I was expecting when I went into it. I think I was expecting some like something a bit more grimy, a little bit more with some more beats on it. And this, the first kind of 3-4 tracks, almost the first half of the album is very almost spiritual. It's very kind of slow, very lots of long synths.
Shall I tell you what Labrynth described this album as in his own words?
I believe I read it, but go on.
The sci-fi love songs for my beloved. So in my head, he thinks he's done a concept sci-fi album of love songs for whoever he's with at the moment.
Don't get me wrong. I would say if I had to write a review of it for a publication and they needed a headline,
you would say it was an attempt writing a sci-fi love songs for his beloved.
It was an attempt. I would say interesting ideas burst out of mostly bland album. Because so often there's bits that prick your ears up and you go,
Yeah,
oh, that is pretty cool.
I'll give you that.
That's pretty cool, especially in the second half of the album, which I know you've done some digging on the guest stars on it and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, there's an ear pricker in it.
But yeah, so the second half of the album, it's got a few more beats, stuff that you can pop your head onto, and that's where some of the more interesting bits on it. But for the most part, I have to say it was very forgettable.
It's very forgettable. I've forgotten how many of the songs go already. But like you said, I did a bit. I'm currently unemployed at the moment, so I've got a bit of time on my hands to do some deep dives and look round. So it's his third studio album with Columbia.
Yep.
And there is only one other really standout writing credit on the album. The song Everything was also written by Zendaya. As in of Banging Tom Holland fame.
Yes.
And all the many movies in the very talented woman.
all the stuff that,
Dune and Spider-Man.
Don't attach that woman's worth to another man,
I do
Graham.
not. I do not.
We will get hate mail already.
But what a man! You seen him hit a driver? You seen him hit a driver off the deck?
Yes.
Oh, nearly got in the
That boy
Ryder
can
Cup.
play.
Yeah. So his real name is Timothy Mackie.
Okay.
Labrynth wouldn't think it was a Timothy Mackie.
No.
And then you've got guest vocals from Zendaya on it as well. Mm-hmm. She sings on In My Feels at the beginning, which is bland.
Yeah.
And then you've got Never Felt So Down, which was the second single off the album, and that has guest vocals from Billie Eilish on it.
Yes.
And she's very good on it.
And
She that is the only song on the album that I liked and thought, oh, I would listen to this one again.
Yeah.
And it's I hate to say it's 90% because she was on it. And I like Billie Eilish.
You're probably right though.
Yeah, and I was like, she added a layer of it that gave it a little bit, took it less from a beige to more of a peach.
Yes.
Gave it a bit more colour. But
also,
she's on it because Phineas produced loads of it.
Yes, so Phineas produced that song especially. Like when you look at the credits on the production credits, that song's got about 4 names on it, Phineas being one, and surprisingly that's the most interesting song on it. Yeah. So I mean,
it's not that no, it's not surprisingly though, is it?
It's unsurprising.
Phineas is one of the biggest producers in the world at the moment, and Billie Eilish is arguably one of the biggest.
I meant it in a sarcastic manner.
Oh, right. Okay. You need to add more tone to your voice.
I apologise.
See, I listened to it, and on like my third listen, I started writing the name of the track, and like little bits I was picking up from the song, In My Feels I've got the backings of Zendaya, and then Kill for Love or whatever it is. I was like, it's very busy. It's a very busy song on a whole. Like there's a lot going on. Like when it doesn't need to be in everything. I was like, there's a nice orchestral piece, and then also written by Zendaya, and then I got to like track 7 of 12, and I just stopped. And like half of it's down to my speaker died. And I'm trying to listen to stuff. I've got a really good Goodman speaker, and I'm trying to listen to it on that. And I give things a car listen, which is incredibly important to any album. Listening to it in your car, but the speaker died, and I just didn't see a reason to charge it up.
I know what you mean.
It wasn't.
I was going to do. I would tell you the truth. I was going to do the same thing. I was going to say I just need to listen. It will remind me of something that I've thought while I was listening to it. Yeah. I couldn't even bring myself to do that. I just thought,
So and at the very bottom of the page, if you look at it, I just thought, sounds too similar. Like that's what I thought. Even when he's trying to do something to sound different, it just sounds the same.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some, there's some interesting ideas on there. There's the bit, the reversed vocals that are up there. He's doing falsetto.
His falsetto's good though. Very Marvin Gaye.
I
think it's very Marvin Gaye inspired, which I thought this was a good album to pick, because Labrynth, with the way he sings now and he doesn't rap, I feel like he is very much inspired by Marvin Gaye, and this trying to be a soulful falsetto singing sort of thing. I drew similarities there.
I did the same thing. They are probably 2 albums that you can draw similarities from.
We didn't just pick these 2 albums because they were the only black people we chose.
Honest. But I think his falsetto sounds a little bit rough.
Yeah, but I think it's meant to.
It might, but
he could polish that up.
But in my unqualified opinion, it doesn't sound good.
He could clean that up if he wanted. Like, but that's fair enough. If you don't like that, I thought that was all right. That was one of the better things. In fact, for 100 miles, I just wrote shrugs and then drew a little picture of an emoji shrugging. Like, I just didn't understand that one. And then you got Turn of the Event, which is a completely pointless interlude.
It's a little interlude, but it breaks up.
There's only one album that deserves an interlude on it, and that's Panic at the Disco, Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Because that interlude is amazing.
I don't know, there's a few kind of like classic albums that have got a little musical interlude on them. Just
Well, my favourite's Panic at the Disco.
Led Zeppelin 4's got an acoustic interlude.
Yeah. Zeppelin don't count that. But Zeppelin are in that sort of level of band where you can't really count them against other bands. They sort of sit on their own, like the Stones and the Beatles. The only person you can compare the Beatles to is the Stones.
It's true. It's true. I always find with interludes, digressing from just this album, but with interludes as well, they've got to be timed. They've got to be timed right.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't...
This one just comes out of nowhere for no reason. And I was like, what the fuck is this?
And also, I'd like to have a reason why you're doing it. Like, if they're markedly different either side of the interlude, then you're like, oh, that's why he's put a little break in there.
Like the Panic at the Disco album is incredibly different on either side of the interlude. They step more into the disco stuff at the end.
Whereas this, I mean, there's a few more beats after the little interlude, but otherwise...
I lasted 2 songs after the interlude and I turned it off.
So...
But I had listened to it completely a few times and I was just like, I'm not doing this again.
But the other thing as well, like, obviously he's considering how long ago, like, stuff like Earthquake come out when he burst onto the scene.
Oh, yeah.
It's only his 3rd studio album.
Yeah.
He spent a lot of time soundtracking
Euphoria, where he met Zendaya.
Yeah. But I thought that was really evident on this album.
Yeah,
it sounds like a soundtrack. Sounds like background music.
Yeah, you could put that to any sort of like late teens, early 20s show like Euphoria or a Skins, like from if we're talking more our era, and it would fit perfectly. Especially in a very, very romantic and upsetting sort of...
It'd be fine in the background of a film or what have you. And
if you heard it, you wouldn't be pulling out your phone to Shazam it.
Yeah, exactly. You'd be like,
I've written like if you can like divine my insane scribblings.
It does look a little bit like, you know, the number 20.
I started writing
on or number 21?
Yeah, I started writing on a slant and then I had more coming up, so I just sort of sectioned it off. Like, and you see it's a soundtrack there.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like singles only, there's no flow to it. Like, it's got a single theme, which I'm like, just put one song in about having a nice time. Just like, you don't need to... nobody needs, unless you're buying a Power of Love album that used to come up in the 90s with the stream of like... You're like, no. Unless you're buying like an album that is like a load of mixes of love songs, of loads of different artists, you don't need an entire album written about the one feeling. The human experience is far more diverse, and there is a lot more to like what people want than just like, I'm gonna write 12 love songs that are all right.
Like, this love's not exactly burning hot.
No,
it's a very mediocre love you've got going on there. Yeah. From the sounds of it.
Yeah, she must have low expectations of you. What else did I write? Maybe I don't understand it.
I mean, again,
like, I'll open that up completely. And again, you know, I am in my mid-30s, and so is he. But like, he's obviously got his finger more on the pulse, and like, he's got teams of people telling him what type of music needs to be made and where he'll fit in a landscape that exists now. But I didn't get it.
I didn't, and that is something that I wanted to bring up with our next album. But I will get to that.
Yeah, I also wrote, it doesn't warrant multiple listens.
No, so I mean, obviously, you think sometimes you get an album and you think, I need to absorb it, and eventually, once you've listened to it a few times, you start picking up stuff.
He's very one-dimensional lyrically.
Yeah.
Like, what else there? I wrote something really good here. Where is it?
Honest, I wrote something really good.
I'm trying to read my own writing. Like, that was it. Where would I listen to this? Where does this fit in your life?
I agree.
Where like, because I had it on in the car, and I didn't enjoy driving to that, and I drive to a multiple of different stuff. Like, I'm not listening to like what's it, driving on out my hands, weight on the wheel. I'm not just listening to that. What's it, Radar Love, like, but it didn't suit in the car. I didn't see it just pottering around the house, you know, shaking around. Like,
you wouldn't listen to it at a barbecue.
Who'd put it on in a club? Would you select that on a jukebox? Would you pay £1 for 4 songs and that be any of them be one of them? No. But like, and again, that's just personal. I just don't see where it fits in the landscape. If that came on in the club, it would clear a dance floor.
And
I was an amateur soul DJ in the early noughties.
That's me clicking and giving the head nod, by the way. Yeah, I agree with you. It's like it doesn't really fit anywhere, and I think the true test of when a record like this comes out, if the record company believed in it, we'd have heard of it, not by just skimming through Spotify.
Well, when we were talking to our friends yesterday, and we said, "Oh, we did Labrynth's new album." Most of them were like, "Oh, he's got a new album."
He's got a new album.
But where's that?
I know that's UK based. He spends a lot of time in America these days.
Yeah.
And maybe it's bigger over there. But for me,
it's such a big place.
Yeah.
Anybody can like anything over there. It's fine. I just I don't think we're going to sit here and do ratings and numbers and stuff, because that then sort of makes us seem like we're trying to qualify ourselves.
No,
I'm not
set
giving
yourself up to get the question of, hold on, you gave 7 out of 10 to that album, but
so
8 out of 10 to this one.
There'll be no rating system, but this one doesn't pass the test. This is
unfortunately, I can't recommend it.
I will not listen to that album again.
No.
And I've already forgotten how most of it sounds.
Yeah. If Spotify throws it up because I listened to it on Spotify, I will be next in that one.
Yeah. Until the algorithm corrects itself.
Yes.
I mean, in the meantime, just listen to some. I don't know. If you like it, you like it. It's not my fault.
I mean,
you can be wrong.
What I will say, speaking of Spotify and its algorithm, after the album finished and I'm driving along, it starts throwing up some random tunes related to it. Enjoyed them more than this album.
Yeah, that happens. That happens. It happens a lot. Like, the algorithm seems to know you, and it's like, you listen to something you don't like. Here's something you might.
No, but I mean, like, obviously the algorithm's like, oh, you're listening to this one. Here's something kind of like it.
Yeah.
That you might like
but
as well.
also more like what you've already listened to before this.
And I was like, yeah, that is better. That's
it's again to say, like, I don't understand it because I don't think I've listened to anything like it before, and that might make it.
Yeah.
It's not a fucking classic, is it? Like, he's not hit it clean out the park.
Well, I think that's enough of.
That is time to end the begin to end.
Yes, we've given it enough of a kick in, I think.
Yeah, I don't think we've been too mean. Like, I made it very clear.
I think the biggest insult you can give to any sort of music is it doesn't make you feel anything. Like when something gets somebody calls something bland. That's and I obviously opened with that, which there's nowhere to go from there. But
now we found some directions.
Yeah.
Next up on the docket to receive an unqualified opinion is the 1971 album by Marvin Gaye called What's Going On. This album was recorded in a multiple of studios, Hitsville, USA, in Detroit, Gold World, United Sting and Sound Factory. And all the instruments were done by Marvin Gaye and the Funk Brothers.
Some of the orchestral arrangements weren't.
No.
And that's one of the big things that runs all the way through this album. Strings.
I don't know why people call this a funk album.
It's definitely not a funk album.
It's a smooth jazz album.
Oh, it's exactly. If anything, it's jazz.
It's like funk jazz fusion. Like the bass is it's got like funky overtones and scales he uses, I feel. But the way he plays, like his rhythm and the way he slides in and out, what's his name? I've written his name here. James Lee Jameson on the bass.
I mean, they even have cool names, don't they?
Yeah, I know. To be a black guy in the 60s in America, I bet it was amazing. They
might not quite agree with that, but
no, fair enough.
It was
that's the strangely enough, on this page I've got civil rights movement.
Yes. Which this album does talk about quite a bit. That it wasn't that cool.
Yeah. This is the thing. Like we were saying with Labrynth, it's a single theme, and he does it blandly. Whereas Marvin Gaye hits so many notes in this, like thematically.
Well, I think the difference is on this one is, like you say, he's got a theme of the civil unrest, but then he delves into the reasons behind them. So each song kind of hits on a different note of,
Well, hitting a solution in every song as well, of talking about how we should just be fucking nice to each other.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's just a really loving album, and that's strange because he was, prior to this album being recorded, he was fucked, man. I mean, he had a really depressing life anyway, and
and
if you ever want to delve into it, man, the man pretty much committed suicide by getting his dad to shoot him.
He's a contradictory fellow. But
we're not here to bash him as a man, we're here to bash him as a
musician.
But like, if I write, like, what have I written here? He was in a deep depression after Tammy Terrell died because they were singing partners, and, and then he refused to perform anything for years. Attempted suicide, and then heavy drug dependency, failed marriage.
He changed his style at that point as well because he was known for being quite sharp dressed. He started wearing just like hoodies and jeans and just grew his beard out.
Did you know he didn't write What's Going On, the actual song?
So
he gets a writing credit for it, but only because he asked.
Well, the thing is, the guy who wrote it,
the guy, are we going to name
the guy? He's from the Four Tops.
Yeah, he is from the Four Tops. I'll go in there. Yeah. His name is Ronaldo Obi Benson.
Oh yeah, I saw it and I was like, Ronaldo. What a name!
Yeah, but it's spelled with an E, so it's Renaldo, not Ranaldo. It's Renaldo.
R-E-I.
R-E-N. R-E-N. I've written it straight off the Wikipedia page. Okay. Renaldo Obi Benson.
Okay, well.
Wrote and composed it with Al Cleveland.
Because he saw someone getting beat up by the police.
And the bloody Thursday in the Berkeley University. He saw all that, and that's a really awful thing, but we're not talking about that.
Ronaldo himself, he basically is quoted as saying, you know, I might have made the suit for Marvin, but Marvin really tailored it. And
well, he tried to take it to the Four Tops and all, and then we're like, nah, what are you doing, man? This is a protest song.
The guy, and I looked a little bit into like Gordy Berry, the guy who run Motown, and who's also a very divisive character because obviously he controlled a lot of what came out of Motown, right down to their image, their public image, how they could act, and all the rest of it. But obviously he's a very good businessman. And he was one that also said, you don't want to do this because...
Yeah, they tried to stop it.
Yeah, basically, they said you'll divide your fan base. Because white people won't want to buy it, is essentially what he was inferring.
Yeah, and that was bollocks. So he didn't know what he was talking about, and that's why Detroit's in the state it's in now. But
the odd thing is, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was very quick to get on it. When the single sold out, and this also was on my notes, was like, obviously, he eventually relented to a limited single release, and he told his guy, make 100,000 copies, which sold out in a couple of days, but luckily his fella had actually printed 200,000 copies. So he had some in the background, so he had some more to sell, and then once those were all sold out, Gordy Berry gets on the phone to Marvin and is just like, look, you need to make an album. I don't care what you record, but it needs to be done in 30 days.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's like, I just need an album. I need an album to follow up this single.
Yeah.
Marvin Gaye.
That's why What's Going On doesn't seem to fit with the rest of the album. It's very much, like, it starts the album and it's a great song, and then what I always think about when I hear that, now that I've listened to the lyrics in depth, the themes of it and looked at it a bit more, people are singing that in the pub when they're drunk at each other, just like mother, 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 like trying to dance with women, and you're like, what are you doing, man? You've not heard this song. You've not heard this song properly.
You listen to Marvin, but you don't hear Marvin.
They don't hear what he's saying. Like, that is not what that song's about. And
and the thing is, like I say, so apparently, like, they wrote and recorded all their bits in 10 days.
What, the Funk Brothers?
So Marvin Gaye and the Funk Brothers in the studio there, they wrote it all, recorded it in 10 days. The extra time was used for overlaying because they did the strong strings and orchestral bits at another studio.
He multi-tracked his vocals on the album beautifully. Beautifully.
Yes.
The vocal recording on that.
If there's one thing that nobody can deny is Marvin Gaye had pipes.
Man, he's
a guy who his falsetto worked. Like we were saying earlier, it doesn't.
Yeah, well, that's your opinion. It could be wrong. But yeah, Marvin, man, he had a great voice. Poor plagued man.
But like I say, I mean, you go back to the recording process because that's what I kind of really enjoyed looking at, and the fact that Motown has this quality control department that basically was like, we can't release this as it is.
Yeah.
And obviously Gordy Berry's obviously at the head of that, saying, we've got a single on it which is already sold, we need at least 2 more singles.
Yeah.
Which is why they went back and done some overdubs on What were the other singles on it?
Mercy Me.
That's my favourite song on the album.
The Ecology, yeah. Inner City Blues and Save the Children were the other singles. You're welcome.
But the thing is, I do think, and there's like the singles on it, not even like Save the Children I don't think stands out. Mercy Me stands out as like this has been kind of drawn to be like a single by itself. Like
Mercy Me is an environmental play.
Yeah.
It's like in the 70s, before we've really started to understand what we do now about global warming and greenhouse effect and stuff, he's pleading with the world to stop. This album hits as hard now, if you actually sit and listen to it, it hits as hard now as it did then. Like
the themes of it certainly do. I mean,
what you got civil rights problems, still got them now. You got treatment about veterans, still got those problems now. Environmental problems, poverty, like governmental controls.
The last track on it, Inner City Blues, Make Me Wanna Holler. Like when he's talking about all those things about like I haven't got any money, and the reason I haven't got any money is because of this. Taxes are too high, and they're all really relevant still.
Yeah, everything.
Still.
So relevant.
50 years later.
Is it 50 years?
Yeah.
Christ.
I know, I always think, I want to say 30.
Yeah, but
it's not 30 years later.
No, it's not. Yeah, no, we're not in 2001 anymore. Although you still dress like it.
Well, you know, some styles never go off.
That's true. That's one of my big takeaways from it. Because one of the things I'm choosing with the selections I've made for the albums that we're going to do is I want to listen to things I haven't heard all the way through. Like I might have heard a single every now and then, and I say I'm a fan of this. Oh yeah, I like this. I like Marvin Gaye. I've said for years I like Marvin Gaye. Never listened to this album once. Now I've listened to it and I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's where you and I think are going to differ, because I think the themes are still really relevant for what he's doing today, but I think as an album, musically, like the bass is really good, but the songs aren't great. The themes are really good. What he's saying lyrically is really still relevant now, very powerful. But actually, as an album,
what do you want from him? This is the living, breathing embodiment of a concept album, like the segue in music,
but
like the way that it's all just one song. Nobody was doing that back then. Not black people especially.
I'm not saying that there weren't some good ideas on it, but like Labrynth's album.
I'm not saying there weren't some good ideas on what's going on.
There were some good ideas on Labrynth's album. We've both just said it's fucking bland.
This isn't bland.
This isn't bland. I agree with you. It's really.
I mean, and I really don't like smooth jazz sort of stuff, and that's more what this album is. There's some moments
on this album more so than what we were just talking about. But like, there's a key change in one of the songs near the end where the strings change, and then this really smooth saxophone lick, and you just go, "Oh, that sounds good."
This song plays so well in the car. So well in the car.
I think it meanders. Some of it's just too long, as with all concept albums, and this is my unqualified opinion about concept albums, and we'll probably do more concept albums as we go along.
Oh, we've got Rush on the docket, so definitely.
And Dark Side of the Moon at some point.
Yeah.
But are
you trying to say concept albums are an artist's vanity project?
Sometimes
Alex Turner, with his last two Arctic Monkeys albums, they are vanity.
But not even to say that they're a vanity project. I think sometimes when you get those kind of concept, not just concept albums, but these experimental albums where people are allowed to do
but this one changed music. This changed a lot of
but that's just it. And the thing is though, at the time of it being released, it was kind of mixedly reviewed, probably because it was quite divisive in what it was talking about.
Yeah.
But didn't really pick up any awards until after he got shot.
Awards don't mean anything. They don't mean anything.
No, they don't. But what I'm saying is, was it judged again after he died and people went back to it and said, actually, this was really innovative for the time, we never really realised it?
Possibly. But
it was overlooked at the time because...
We're only listening to it in hindsight.
Oh, yeah. But this is what I'm saying. It was judged as being one of the greatest albums of all time. And in terms of its themes, and in terms
I think it's in the top 10 on Rolling Stones.
In terms of its themes and some of the ideas that it had, I can absolutely understand why people want to put that notion out there. But for me, as an album, there's easily 40 albums I'd rather listen to than this.
40?
Easily 40.
That's hard.
And I like this album.
That's
I
harsh.
like a lot of music. But again, we go back to that question.
That's 40 albums more than
Do I
this.
just not understand it? Do I listen to Marvin, but am I hearing Marvin?
I don't know. That's mad to me that's not in your like top 40. Like when I know some of the crap you listen to. Like, and this concept protest
I mean,
like
don't put me on the spot. I'm not going to do
environmental album about like civil rights and the way people are treated and still treated today.
But does the thing?
That's such a, what's the word I'm looking for now? That's such a cynical way to look at it, as if is it only because he died that this has been looked at again? That's such a cynical way to look at it.
I would look at.
Like if Harry Styles died tomorrow,
Yeah.
would his new album all of a sudden get another look and be great?
Yes.
And be great?
Not necessarily be great.
Would the album be looked at and be
But
great?
you can guarantee the sales of that album would spike.
Oh yeah, but that goes without saying.
Yeah.
Every time Diana's death rolls around, everyone starts listening to Candle in the Wind again. like what do
Yeah.
you?
No, but-
every Christmas, Noddy Holder gets back into the
But
top
is it
10.
not?
Like that is a bollocks standpoint.
No, but is it not?
I'm talking about the
Because of-
musicality, right? It hasn't changed the musicality of it, whether people understood it then or not, and it's
Right.
nothing to do with his death that people like it. People just grew to understand it,
Right.
Like because music moved. He was far ahead of his time.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Harry
But
Styles isn't fucking anywhere near his time.
Look, the thing is,
Sorry, Harry.
you can't just judge an album on its themes and whether or not it did something innovative. There's lots of albums out there that have probably had really good ideas but didn't have very good songs.
Name one.
What's going on?
Oh dear, you're such a prick. Can you name another that isn't this?
No.
Be Here Now by Oasis.
No, Be Here Now was very self-indulgent. It's very bloated. But what I'm saying is there's lots of
I can't agree with any of that.
there's lots of prog, especially prog rock albums.
Oh, yeah, but prog-
there's loads and loads of if you listen anything by Dreamweaver, there's no denying those three people can play their music
Cool.
like better probably than anybody on this planet at the moment. They are a phenomenal band,
Ooh.
but nobody listens to them because they don't have any good songs.
Who did we see the other day when we went to see the Chili Peppers?
Thundercat.
Yeah, didn't understand that at all, but they were great players.
Exactly.
That music sounded like me having an anxiety. Like I said to you at the time, that's what my anxiety attacks sound like in my head. That wonderful black man playing bass. It's like, oh my god. Oh, it was too much for me.
That's just it. Like just because
This is a very unqualified opinion. I'm
just
not.
because you can play your music well doesn't make it a good song. Just because it's got a theme that hits home doesn't make it a good song. Like even to a point of just because you've got a good voice doesn't make it a good song. Hmm.
Example.
Harry Styles.
Well, I wouldn't say he's got a good voice.
But all these things need. That's why writing a really great album is so hard. One, because everyone has their opinions, and people like me will come along and shit on it, even though I've got no qualifications whatsoever. But also because you have to combine all these different bits to be a phenomenon. Like when you talk about an album that was a phenomenon when it came out, like. You talk about like the Beatles.
That's an interesting point. If the Beatles brought the White Album out today,
Yes.
where's that charting?
It's probably not doing as well. Let's be honest.
Oasis bring out What's the Story today, where's that charting?
Probably still quite highly.
I think it'd break the top 10, but I don't know if it'd go number 1.
But the reason behind that is obviously the White Album had some great songs on it and also had some dross. You could extract a few singles from it. These days, I think they would have been forced into making it one album, not two, not a double album.
I don't think the Beatles have ever done a good album.
Oh, that is strong.
I think the Beatles have done really good greatest hits albums. like
Oh.
like them, the Beatles and the Eagles I don't think they've done a good album. I think they've done great.
Queen were another one.
Oh yeah, like I couldn't. Sheer Heart Attack, and that's the only one I can think of.
I mean, I've got A Day at the Races and A Night at the Opera.
Never heard of either of them.
Well, one of them's got Bohemian Rhapsody on it.
Yeah.
The other one's got a couple of singles on it, but the in-between stuff is very
In between?
Yeah, it's very in between.
Yeah.
But I think you're wrong about the Beatles. I think the Beatles have made several really good albums.
Help.
You go with Help. As look, we're not here to talk about the Beatles anyway.
No, not
We're here
yet,
to talk
anyway.
about Marvin Gaye. The point is, this album is just like those albums.
I think
in between the good stuff, there's a lot of.
I don't think you got it. That's what I'm going to have to go with here in my opinion of you. Like, yeah, so that it isn't lowered. Like, I don't think you got it. Like,
Save the Children.
I can concede that it meanders.
Yes.
Occasionally, towards the end of the song, they let the flute interludes go on a little bit too long.
Especially in the second half, because obviously the first half, when you look at the track listing, the first half there's like
But is
5
that-
songs in the first half, 3 on the second. And
Yeah.
those songs.
But they have to. Back then, it was going out on LP, so they had to extend the time for playtime, didn't they?
Yeah, no, well, they didn't have to.
Did they not?
No, they didn't have to. They could have just put.
If you got the space and you got the
You got
time, you're going to think of it, you?
Yeah, but that's just it.
Therein
It just
lies the
kinda
vanity.
no, therein lies the vanity. It's like, well, we're just gonna have a flute solo for no reason.
Hey, I think it was a piccolo.
Keep going. We're gonna keep going. Just play some strings. And the other thing as well is, and this was something, I can't claim this to be my opinion, but when I read it, I was like, yeah, you know what, he's right. And apparently, a lot of the reviews at the time said that the string section sounded very soundtrack-like. Very much like, especially when they went on after the vocals had finished, was like, this sounds like the soundtrack to a film. And
Yeah.
when you listen to it, you think, actually, I can hear this on the back of a 60s film.
Yeah, well, 70s, because then
Yeah,
if you think of the albums that preceded this, you had Curtis Mayfield's Superfly, which was the soundtrack to the film Superfly that Curtis Mayfield, I think, he funded and directed.
Yeah.
It's
When you talk about vanity projects.
that's such a good, terrible film, but the music's fantastic. That's got Pusher Man and all sorts on it. But that is another thing where I think he's inspired his own generation of musicians who heard him. Like, maybe the general public didn't quite get it until later, and the critics, but who the fuck are critics anyway? Like, people like me and you. But they get paid by the Telegraph. Twats. Right? So, like, I think he inspired a lot of people of his own generation to then go out and be a bit braver with their music, instead of sitting in that Stax Records, Motown Records, sort of easy swinging. Yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? I think he broke a barrier in that sense.
Yeah.
Like he gave the artist a bit more power to be like, look, listen to me. I know this formula works, but I've got this. I've got this idea, and if I just get it down, you give me the time and space, then it'll be something. And I think that's a big shift, especially in black, like, soul music. Like, that was so controlled by the record labels. Like, that was a big shift in power dynamic to the artist, which is a really good thing.
And breaking down those sorts of barriers, and this album was another one where record company didn't want to know.
Yeah, didn't want to know, and then suddenly they got proved wrong because the single sold like hotcakes, and it was just like, right, we need to get something out because I want to make some money off this. And obviously, given that freedom, he wrote what is a fantastic album. It doesn't feel like he wrote a song for it though. Like you said, it flows.
Yeah.
I wrote this down in the book there, and I think it feels like a lot of the time in it, especially in the spoken word parts, he's just speaking his mind. Like, a lot of it, he's not pairing together a load of rhyming couplets. He's not throwing a lot of sense into it. He's just speaking his mind and talking. It's got more of a narrative feel than an actual. This is maybe why this, like, you don't. But maybe it feels like there's not many singles on it, and why what's going on doesn't really sit well with the rest of it, because he's speaking his truth, like, all the way through, about what he sees, what he wants, how he thinks people should be. Like, in God Is Love, like, he's really delving back into his, like, Christianity roots, where he was born and raised, his father was a minister and stuff, and he did have a deep belief in him, from what I hear. I mean, he was a twisted, tortured man, but like, he did a lot of bad things.
Like you say, and I mean, that kind of truth comes Later on, we get a lot more albums where artists have been able to do that.
Do you think people like me and you can't understand that truth on some level because we've never really had to struggle in that way?
Well, and this is what I said when I say, we jokingly say, you know, because we're quoting one.
I mean, I'll tell Labrynth to bits because he hasn't struggled for years.
But yeah, it's like we can't obviously understand what it was like to go through that.
Not at that time back then, and
as incredibly important as we could try to empathise and try to see it from their point of view without having lived it, you can't know. And maybe that is why, like I say, this doesn't resonate with me as much as maybe something else does.
Yeah.
So, but
because it wasn't written for white boy suburban from Middle England.
Yeah, exactly. But like I say, musically, I do still think it's fantastic. But I will, because I just looked at my notes and something that I did want to say, because I said that obviously there's no the singles on it stick out, it meanders. It is the first time a male artist had 3 top 10 hits from the same album.
Oh wow!
This
Achievements. And you said he didn't win any awards. He was still breaking records.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but like I say, it's the in between bits that make an album good.
There's no in between bits in it though. It's a segueing out. It just flows into itself. Like there isn't any in between, apart from obviously the occasionally meandering. But do those meandering interludes of the music at the end of those latter songs ruin that song from when it's pumping and going? Do those like 2 minutes of self-indulgence ruin that song? I don't think they do.
It makes me wait too long. For me, from my opinion, and obviously that sounds very.
And therein lies another problem with modern culture.
As a listener,
back then, when you wanted an LP on, you were listening to it.
Yeah,
there was no skipping tracks. Yeah,
but that's another thing as well. The way we consume music has changed because people were before. Obviously, TV was massive. You're right. People would put a record on, and that's what they'd be doing. I'm going to listen to a record. Now we have it on, we're doing something else. We listen to it in the car. We have it on while we're playing a computer game.
Also, I don't think people write albums anymore.
Cooking dinner.
People don't write albums anymore, and I'll expand on that because it's a theme I am definitely going to hit on because I've hit on it with you for years.
With modern music.
Yeah, modern music. Yeah. I don't feel anybody writes an album anymore that is more than just 3 singles and a load of pop. Like I really don't. I think that the artists that are out there trying to write an entire album of good songs are so few and far between, or so maybe tied to wanting to do that they're not willing to settle and take a record deal, and like they've got too much integrity to do that. Because we like being on the music scene around here, met a lot of musicians with a lot of integrity.
Yes,
but
that's a nice way of saying it.
But they're still playing round here. Yeah. Like we I don't know about you, but when we were going around, I sold out straight away. And it took that money. I took that money. And it took it straight away.
That $1 straight away.
Yeah, hands down. But we just weren't good enough.
But the thing was, like, when we were doing that and we were on the local scene, if someone had approached us and gone, you know, we need a single in 10 days, you bet your bomb dollar I'd find out a single in 10 days.
Yeah, they'd have got one out of us.
But I would have seen it as, if they'd have said to me, right, we're going to control how this sounds, this is what we want you to record, I'd have seen it as like, if I can get my own platform, then I can do what I want afterwards.
Yeah, there's all that. Which is what a lot of them do, but still. There's not, I think with the end of the grunge, I've sort of like, because this point really irks me and I think about it a lot. Yeah. Like, it's one of those ones that rolls around in my head like a marble in a rat run. Like, since the mid-90s, I don't think there's been an album written that isn't just for singles to go out. I think around that when pop took over from Britpop in the late 90s into noughties, there's very few. This is when you stopped getting people trying to do those albums all the time.
I think there was a resurgence in the early 2000s where albums became cool again.
Yeah, but then even then that got infiltrated so quickly by the record labels. Yeah. Like so quickly that you were just getting pap. Yeah. I mean, who's your favourite ones? Was it Scouting for Girls? They were your favourites back then. Like, and I hate them.
I just want to qualify this by saying
I hate these lines.
Scouting for Girls.
They're playing somewhere soon, really close.
No. In no way, shape or form.
It's like a little bingo hall.
And the thing is, fair play to them because they got a career out of it. But
Did they?
I mean, like, look, yeah.
I feel the same way about The Feeling. The Feeling were terrible.
But I see. Yeah, I don't mind The Feeling.
Yeah.
Given what it is, the songs were actually quite catchy.
But I'm not saying that kind of artist went away completely. I'm saying they became harder to find. Like the Arctic Monkeys coming through in the early noughties.
Yes.
They did it entirely. They were one of the first guerrilla bands to come through. Did it entirely themselves, recorded it entirely themselves, and really made a staple for this indie sort of scene again. But then again, like I said, it got infiltrated way too quickly. Anyway, we've digressed far too far from Marvin Gaye. I want to put a bit of shine on the band that played with him. He was a member of the band. Oh, did you know that this was his 11th album?
What, Marvin Gaye?
Marvin Gaye's 11th album.
But this is what I'm saying about like Marvin Gaye.
How they churned him out.
He earned the right to make an album like this.
Yeah. Right, so the guys who played music on this album, I mean, Marvin played keys and stuff, was a load of guys called the Funk Brothers. And they played on a majority of the Motown records, if not all of them. Just to give you a couple of the biggest ones, they played for the recording of My Girl, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Tears of the Clown, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, Let's Get It On, and Roadrunner. So that is, they played for everybody, and they played behind a curtain. Like, they weren't given any sort of shine.
No.
They were paid a salary. Like, they were completely forgotten until in the early noughties they made a documentary called Standing in the Shadow of Motown. And it's a really good. I can't tell you too much about the individuals who were in the stuff. I know this is a fact. It's something I've known for a long time. If you watch this documentary, you see them performing and getting into the Hall of Fame and performing with Ben Harper and doing interviews and stuff, and really getting the kudos. The kudos they really did deserve, like, because they weren't treated properly. I mean, they had the Funk Brothers at Motown and Stax Records had MG and the Booker T's, who on the flip side did get their own stuff because they got their own singles like Green Onions. Like, exactly. It was MG and the Booker T's and Steve Cropper, like, and they did get their own stuff. Like, but he still had to fight for it. He wrote, like, Steve Cropper wrote the intro to Soul Man. Like, on the guitar.
But there's lots of examples of that, like, kind of session musicians coming in, writing stuff, but not getting the credit for it.
What's that really famous one? Lou Reed.
Lou Reed.
Lou Reed paid a session musician to play on Walking the Wild Side. Paid $50 to play that Walking the Wild Side riff. One of the most famous bass riffs in the world. Yeah. Got paid $50, no royalties.
Well, this is just so the Young at Heart song. I can't remember who the band is. It's not Dexys Midnight.
Pay your bassist, guys.
But so the violin bit, that was a session musician, right? And so when that song was used for an advert, they only used the violin bit. Yeah. But the guy who wrote the song got all the royalties. So the session musician who wrote that bit basically went, I should be getting the money back because I wrote it. Yeah. And I had to take him to court in the end, but eventually the court filed with the violinist saying, and what broke it was the bloke brought it in and said, this is it, played it, and then gave it to the songwriter and said, now you play it.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And so,
then that's a legal one. We've had a sad one about the guy from Lou Reed, and then for a third one that's fun, what's his name? Call Me Al. Yeah. Paul Simon, the bass riff, he called me out like...
the solo.
He got given that solo because it was his birthday on the day of the recording. Yeah. And he said, do you want to put a solo on the song? It's like, yeah, and it's the best bit of that song. That song is fantastic. Yeah, that song's fantastic. It's one of my favourite songs. But, like, he got that because it was his birthday.
Yeah. I know, but going back to the Funk Brothers, obviously, it goes back to how Motown was controlled. Mm. It was very much a business. Gordy Berry, very good businessman, knew music, it would appear, knew what would sell, but also knew, like, right, I'll give you a job, you can play music, that's the thing you want to do.
Yeah, it's $200 a month.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll pay you a salary, it's like going to be like a job.
Nobody's going to see your face.
Yeah.
You're going to sit behind here. Like, I had to Google the names of these boys, and I only wrote one down, but But they didn't just record with them; they toured with them everywhere they go.
exactly.
Because you'd have like 10 people playing on these Motown shows. They toured together.
The Temptations, the Four Tops.
You'd have every single one of them
Yeah.
playing, and Marvin Gaye and everything, and they'd play for the entire night.
Yeah.
Like they would play for the entire night behind the stage, like behind the curtain, and let everyone else get all the shines and like it's a madness. And
you'll fall
it was
down
wrong, but like I
Yeah.
said, they made this documentary years ago now. And it's a very good documentary. It's called Standing in the Shadows of Motown. You should definitely watch that if you're into your soul music and you don't really know too much about that.
Going back to the album in itself, and obviously the Funk Brothers playing on it, and again, this might have been the first time that they had that freedom, which is maybe why it's and you've got those musical interludes where they can just play because it's the first time they've been told, right, they've not got somebody in their ear saying play this, play it like this, play it like that. They could just do what they wanted.
James Brown.
Exactly. James Brown was another man.
Oh dear.
He was strict. But I mean, like I say, one of the things I read as well was like when they were making the single for What's Going On.
Yeah.
So one of the Funk Brothers playing saxophone did this little riff, and I was just. And Marvin was like, "That's perfect. I'm putting it on." And he was like, "I'm just messing around, man." He's like, "Yeah, well, you mess around real good."
You mess around real nice, bro.
Exactly, and it went on. But that's the sort of thing that, like, when we're talking about this sort of recording, is like they had freedom to do that. They would just like play something, and then Marvin Gaye's like, "Yep, that's it."
Yeah, we'll get that in
We'll have
somewhere.
that, we'll fit that.
It's mixed really well. Really well. You can hear it.
Considering it's recorded across quite a few studios, like you said at the start.
Yeah, it's mixed really well. You can hear everything's in it. Like there's quite a lot of bongo.
There is one I wanted to mention. There's a song on there. Can't remember which one it is now. Toward the end, but there's that. You know the instrument that's got like a chain around the outside. It's like
yeah. I know the one you mean.
It's like Don't Fear the Reaper. I've got to have more cowbell. it's like I gotta have more of that instrument.
Let me have a look.
It's louder than the vocals at the start. It's ridiculous.
It's a large wooden cabasa.
A cabasa.
Cabasa. A fouquet steel beads. Shaker. Well, I think I've written that right. My dyslexia is kicking my butt there a bit.
I mean, I can't see a picture of it, so
That is it.
A cabasa. Yeah, that is exactly it, and it is the loudest thing on that song by a country mile. like really explore the studio space. it's ridiculous. But it's a great album, but that did stick out to me as like, that's a bit silly.
You were just saying it isn't a great album.
So
hang on, don't contradict yourself. Not today, not on here.
Not today, not on here. Okay, I will tell you this. It has some. The theme's great. His singing, great. The musicianship, great. The songs, hit and miss.
You got no soul. That's what it is. And I don't mean in the way that, like, you know, your body is vapid of spirit. I mean in.
Thanks.
I mean in the way that if sitting on the dock of the bay came on in a pub, you'd awkwardly two-step and just shake your head and pretend you knew what was going on.
Look.
I
didn't want to bring this up.
When James Brown comes on and says "get up off of that thing," you mean he just said you think he means just stand up out of your chair, like stand up in a disorderly fashion. That's what you think.
I didn't want to bring this up, but I've got a record over there called "My Kind of Blues" by Sam Cooke.
Have you?
And it is fantastic.
Sam Cooke, the whitest soul singer of all time. Great voice. White, so controlled by the record label. Whitest soul singer of all time. Was shot naked in a hotel because a hooker kicked him out of his room.
I mean, there's nothing white
That's
about
how
that.
he died.
Unless you're.
Did you know that?
Sorry. But I did not know that.
Did you not? Got shot in a hotel reception. Shut dead. It's not funny.
He was trying to do the Naked Man.
No,
I mean, the Naked Man gets what the Naked Man wants.
He had a hooker or something. I'm paraphrasing or getting it wrong, so don't quote me on this. And then he's got locked out of his room. She's like kicked him out of his room. His room. He's gone down to the reception to get another key.
Yeah.
The woman's not recognised him behind the reception. She's just gone bang, just shot him dead.
Wow.
Like,
anyway,
America, everybody.
Yay, America. But I'd listen to that over What's Going On.
Yeah, you're white. Yeah, I think anybody would admit. Like, Sam Cooke's fantastic. I love Sam Cooke.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely love him. But he's very white bread soul music.
Is it? But
Yeah, 50s and early 60s.
Is it not racialist to say that it's white bread soul music?
No, because it was the white people who were controlling him in the musical sense. Saying, sing this like this. Because he kept singing songs. He wrote A Change Gone Come because a white singer then couldn't steal it.
Right.
Because it wasn't about their experience.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't work if it was a white person. But everything else that he sang, taken by other crooners at the time. He was a crooner. Like, he wasn't a soul singer, and he's more of a crooner.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I'll grant you that.
Yeah, like he fits more. Like, he doesn't fit necessarily with your Sam and Daves and your James Browns. Like, for any other reason than he's a black man. Like, he fits more with your Frank Sinatra's and your Dean Martins. Very smooth, very attractive.
It is very smooth. I'll grant you that.
See, you white.
Maybe, and it goes back to this. Maybe I listen to Marvin.
You can't hear Marvin.
But in my opinion, it meanders quite a lot. There's very, very good ideas on it. There is some good songs on it. And there's great themes. And unlike the Labrynth one, which we talked about earlier, this does diversify what he's talking about, and what he's singing is interesting. But is it one of the best albums of all time?
According to Rolling Stone, it is. And
Well, what do they know?
And according to this unqualified fact gets that over here, it is as well.
I think in your heart of hearts, we've obviously been...
Are you going to tell me what I believe now?
No,
I'm looking forward to hearing my opinion.
Because we've been listening to this a lot, and obviously it's something fresh that we've listened to and experienced, right? And it's in your mind now. But if I asked you next year, what's your top 20 albums of all time? This might squeeze in. I don't think it's in the top 10.
I don't think it'd get in the top 10, but I never said it would. I've not sat here and said it would. You can listen back later, and if it has, then I'll retract my. Here's my apology now, because I can't remember everything I've said today. I work on a women of prayer, but I don't think it'd be getting my top 10. It'd get in my top 20. It wouldn't be anywhere near the bottom of my 40. That I thought, that's just so brass.
I mean, I've said it. Someone, if it ever comes around and people actually listen to it, will probably want that list.
Yeah, they will, and eventually they might get it. But like, it'd be a while I'm writing it, because it'll change every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, but Jesus Christ. Like, I've got the indignation for these listeners. Like that is stuff.
that is
so
strong.
Ridiculous.
Can't wait for me to put some real dross on it. Like,
stop trying to get clickbait going. Duncan Howard doesn't even put Marvin Gaye in his top 40.
Well, we're all entitled to an opinion.
We are. Unqualified or not.
Extremely unqualified.
Right, so I think that's a brilliant album. I think it was amazing. Will I listen to it again after today? Probably not. But it'll definitely go into my mix of. It's definitely going into my mix.
Yeah. I'm glad we listened to it, because now when it comes up, I can tell people.
Oh yeah, no,
I can make an informed decision.
Well, we can be informed about stuff. That's half of what this is about.
Yes.
For me, anyway. I can't speak for you. It's about, like I said, listening to stuff I haven't heard, which is why at the minute we've got about 20 albums plotted out.
Yeah.
But in the future, I'm quite willing to take suggestions from anybody who's daft enough to listen to this.
Yeah, me too.
If we're not hitting some markets that we.
And obviously it needs to be... Oh, it doesn't need to be anything, to be fair.
No, it doesn't need to be anything.
I was going to say, like, when we're talking about the older albums, we would prefer to listen to some of the classics.
Yeah, but we can pick the classics for ourselves.
To find out why they're classics.
But if we missed something, because, like, let's be honest, we've got a very... Like, we listen to a lot of music, but we've got a very binary what we do listen to. Like, your selections for this I was like, that's ridiculous, because it's all stuff we've heard. But no, we'll listen to it.
But mostly, but I think some of that was because I've listened... Some of the albums I know very, very well, and I know loads of stories about as well, which is why I wanted to talk about them. But some of them are like albums that I really like, but I don't really know much about the recording process or how they came to be, or much about the band behind the music. And so that's why I put them in there, because they're albums I already enjoy, but I would like to find out more.
So we have decided that we're going to do original pirate material by The Streets and Taylor Swift's Midnights, which I'm very excited to listen to. I'm very excited. Tay-tay. When I was talking to my wife about this, like, and she was ripping on me and you for enjoying Taylor Swift. She doesn't even like Taylor Swift. She's a 27-year-old woman. She was. We were listening to Lizzo today.
Lizzo?
And she was bouncing.
Flute out.
She was loving it.
I mean...
And she's like, I hate Taylor Swift. I was like, how do you hate Taylor? You're her demographic.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly.
Apparently her demographic is mid-40s, mid-30s men. Apparently, but we'll delve more into that next time. Well, if anybody has listened, I appreciate you listening to it. I've been Graeme.
I've been Duncan. Thank you for stopping by.
And this has been Unqualified Opinions. Peace!
So unqualified to take on this
Unqualified to do their job.
pure, unqualified, silly,
Unqualified.
morbidly unqualified. It hasn't always been an unqualified success.
Rising number of unqualified teachers.
Physical and psychologically unqualified.
As unqualified answer. Unqualified friend. Unqualified media. Qualified teacher. Qualified to make such decisions. Unqualified stranger. Unqualified opinions.
Why are your armpits that colour? With like on that shirt, it's like
It's
brown
because of
in
sweat.
there. And you got your propecia in there as well.
No, I haven't. I'm not growing extra hair under my
I'm
armpits.
just checking.
We're going to cut this out, or...
You can cut it out if you want. You're doing the edit. Like, you just seen you with your arm in your hair.